Hello, good morning, every student. Continues the class and the practical. So it's a theory class also. Come in the practical to show that some figures are shown in this class. The first one is the cam. ಈ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ ಫಿಗರ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. So cam is already know that in our theory class. And so next one is the rack and pinion. Rack and pinion ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡೇವೆ. Gear ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, what are the types of gears, uses of gears, and also some of the important formulas are also to show that. Next on the bolts and nuts. ಈ ಬೋಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನಟ್ಸ್ ನೋಡೇವೆ. ಬೋಲ್ಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ನಲ್ಲೇ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲೇ ಬಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಬೋಲ್ಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಎಕ್ಸಾಗನಲ್ ಬಟನ್, ಎಕ್ಸಾಗನಲ್ ನಟನ್ನು ಶೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಬೋಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಹಿಂಜಸ್. ಹಿಂಜಸ್ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಈ ಕಪ್ಲಿಂಗ್ಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು. ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಹಿಂಜಸ್. ಕಪ್ಲಿಂಗ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ನೋಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಏನಂತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಹಿಂಜಸ್ ಅಂತ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ configuration in an assembly, sub-assembly and interference. Components configuration in an assembly, sub-assembly and interference. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ components configuration in an assembly. Right click the component and select component properties to specify for more than one component. Hold down control and select the components, then right click and select component properties. Properties that are common to all selected components appear in the dialog box. Set the following options, then click OK. Configuration specification properties. Referenced configuration. Select a configuration from the list. If the selected component is an instance of a component pattern, select one of the following. Use use same configuration as pattern sheet component. If the selected component is an instance of a component pattern, this is the default setting. Use named configuration. Select to specify a configuration that is different from the sheet component and select a configuration from the list. Next, change properties in only available in assemblies with more than one configuration. Sets properties in this configuration. All configurations are specify configurations. Suppression state controls the suppression state of the component. Solve as sets the component as rigid or flexible. Exclude from bill of materials. Omit this component from the bill of materials. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ BOM ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ, ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟಲ್ಲಿ BOM ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾನೆ. Applies to only table based bombs, not Excel based bombs. In an assembly, right click a component and click configuration component. In the modify configuration dialog box, you can create new assembly configurations. Change the component configuration used in each assembly configuration. Supplies or unsuppress the component for each assembly configuration. Changing the part configuration after dropping it into the assembly. Box. To see the box, computer manifold 1 at flow body. Suppress configuration A1, A2, A3, A1, A2, 3 default. Once the part is inside the assembly, go to component properties by either doing a left or right click on the part directly from the graphics area or from the feature manager design. After selection the component properties, it will open a dialog box as shown below, where it can be selected the required configuration and the part will automatically update. Figure ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಮುಂದೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. To insert a new subassembly, do one of the following. If the feature manager design tree, right click either the top level assembly icon or the icon for an existing subassembly and select insert new assembly. Click new assembly toolbar or insert component new assembly. In the feature manager design tree, an empty subassembly is inserted as the last component of the selected assembly. Virtual subassemblies appear with a name in the form of assemble or assembly name. Externally saved subassemblies appear with a name in the form of assume added component to a subassembly. To move a component that is already in the assembly into the subassembly, see join components to edit the assembly structure or assembly structure editing. To add an existing saved component to the subassembly, right click the subassemblies icon in the feature manager design tree and select edit subassembly. Then insert components using any of the methods in adding components to an assembly. So in this box, SolidWorks design interference ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ. Next ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್. ಒಂದು ಆಫ್ ದ ಮಾಡೆಲನ್ನು ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ನಾನು ಅಸೆಂಬ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಒಂದು ಫಿಗರ್ನ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಈ ಫಿಗರ್ ನೋಡೋದು ಫಿಗರ್ ನಂಬರ್ 1. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬಂದು ಫಿಗರ್ ನಂಬರ್ 2. ಫಿಗರ್ ನಂಬರ್ 2ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಸೆಂಬ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದನ್ನೇ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅಸೆಂಬ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದೆ, ಗೋ ಟು ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಸಬ್ ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್. ಇದರಲ್ಲೇ ಹಿಡನ್ ಇದೆ, ಮೇಕ್ ಇದೆ, ವರ್ಚುವಲ್ ಕನ್ಫಿಗರ್ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟು, ಸ್ಪೀಡ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಶೋ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಅಸೆಂಬ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಡ್ರಾಯಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ ಫಿಗರ್ ನಂಬರ್ 1 ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫಿಗರ್ ನಂಬರ್ 2. ಟು ಇನ್ಸರ್ಟ್ ಎ ನ್ಯೂ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಇಂಟು a subassembly, you must edit the subassembly in its own window. It cannot be insert a new component into a subassembly while editing the top level assembly. Also, it cannot be insert a new component while editing the subassembly in the context of higher level assembly. Right click the subassembly icon in the feature manager design tree and select open assembly to open the subassembly in its own window. Then added a new component. So